Welcome everyone to another Conversation in Void. I'm your host, Graveyard, joined by my off-screen producer, Salem. He's always in chat. Make sure to say hi to Salem. He loves to hear from each and every one of you. So, for tonight's guest, I am pleased to welcome an actress, writer, musician, and with works including Witchboard, Dream Demon, Fire in the Sky, Evilou coming up soon, and my wife's personal favorite, Pepper Ann and Gilmore Girls. Please welcome to the Void, Kathleen Wilhoite.
Hello.
Hello.
Evilou in there. That's fantastic. Is it coming out soon? Because I loved doing that movie. It was great fun.
Yeah, I haven't seen a release date on it yet, and I'm excited because the premise really intrigues me for what it is, and we'll discuss that a little bit here. But we have some introduction questions. We like to get to know you a little bit better. So, Kathleen, what really brought you into the world of acting? I know you started acting in stage plays early on in schooling, but was there anything that you go, hey, I want to do that, like movie, TV show?
Oh, acting is, for me, I believe it's a calling. My parents make jokes like my first words were "watch me." It's just a thing, like, if you probably know because you have kids, but I teach too. I teach. Sorry, I'm trying to. Sorry, look at that.
Oh, good.
Teach, and it's just something that kind of picks you. Really, for me, it was. I did all plays. I always did, like, for recess when I was a little kid, I would choreograph and direct all the other kids in so I love all things, getting on a stage. There's like it's hallowed ground for me to stand on a stage in an empty theater. It's just this most exhilarating and glorious feeling. I love it so much. So I absolutely love performing, acting. I love watching it. I love doing it. I love directing it. I love writing it. I love it all. It's my passion.
Yeah. I mean, that's great that you got into it from such a young age and just made it your career. Myself, I did the same thing. Like, I remember watching movies, especially horror movies, with my friends going, hey, we can make our own Halloween movie, right? So we did. We had a camcorder and we started doing that. And I even went to school in high school and did drama and theater for 4 years.
So that's exactly what I'm talking about. And I also teach up at Cal Arts, California Institute of the Arts. I teach acting for the camera,
Mm-hmm.
and I want them to do exactly that. We have a whole studio on our phones, right? We can shoot our own movies. During the strike, my buddy and I would just after that we'd go march in the strike, the actor strike, we would go and shoot a little made up story on our phone. It was pretty fun, but you can do it. I mean, it's kind of like the old punk rock days with music. Because when I first started playing music, because I play music too, when I first started playing music, the only people who got to record and put stuff out were people that got signed by the big record companies. And then punk rock happened in the late 70s, early 80s, and kind of just opened it up because anybody with a 4-track could record songs and put it out. And then now I feel like it's incredible. You got a 48-track studio on your computer in your home if you want, so you can I think it's very it's difficult because there's so many opportunities and so many people who want a slice of the pie, but then also it's fantastic because anybody who wants to express themselves in the performing arts, music has an opportunity. So
yeah, you struck a chord. I love punk rock music. My producer loves punk rock. He's early punk rock. I'm 80s punk rock that I really got into it. And it's very true what you're talking about with your computer now, with your cell phone. I equate the cell phone now to be everyone's VHS camcorders they had in the 80s, where everyone's making movies and just recording it straight to tape. And then you're making copies of copies of copies just to get people to see it.
Right. I mean, back my husband is a drummer from DC, and he, was around when DC punk started to and so he has a very strong affinity for, that time when, when artists had an opportunity to be liberated from the man kind of thing,
Mhm.
which, and I feel like that can happen now with what we have access to on our cell phones. We can, hopefully, I don't know what's going to happen to the movie business, because it's definitely messed up. I haven't had an audition in months, which is really weird for me and
Mhm.
scary. And I have friends like makeup artists, a lot of crew people, Teamster friends moving out of LA because they can't afford to live here. Because the business is kind of shut down. There just aren't the same amount of opportunities that existed before the strike, which I don't know.
Right.
It's rough. So
Yeah. And I've spoken to a few actors on the show. They're saying that even in the past, say, 7 to 15 years, things have even changed with auditioning, where you used to go in to audition. Now everything is virtual, that you have to record yourself, you have to edit yourself, you have to send it in.
yeah, self tapes. I mean, that's what I tell my friends. I was like, I want to write myself out of having to make self tapes. Though I will say that I've started. In fact, Evilou, the movie that you're talking about, that hasn't
Mhm.
been out yet. Everybody, it's not released yet. That's one I got on a self tape where I finally told my. I didn't tell my agent. I just thought, did you say we can swear on this?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought, fuck, I'm just gonna make a tape that I'm excited about. So I'm like outside. I shot it. I made like a little movie. I love the character. She's just this terrible rock chick, old lady hag mom, and I got the part off of the self tape, and I felt like it was such a victory for me, because it was one of those things where I did not follow the rules. Number one. Number two, I created a thing that I was excited about,
Mhm.
regardless of whether they liked what I presented. But and the script's funny. My friend, he wrote it. He's a really good, talented guy. So I laughed when I read the script. So anyway, I just really put a lot of effort into this self tape, and then I got the part. So I was delighted. It was a big victory for me, because also the thing that casting people say is, with self tapes they can look at 100 people, whereas before, when they would invite people into the office, they could look at 30 in a day, and that's
Right.
huge, or 15. But I was one of those 15. So now I'm like, oh man, because now I'm just one of 100. Swipe, swipe. My buddy, he's like, this is how I cast. He's like, swipe, swipe, swipe. He looks at 20 seconds of a performance and is like, nah, nah, she's weird. She's this, she's that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Bummer.
Yeah, and it seems like we're having this dynamic change from like big budget Hollywood to more independent stuff.
Let's
And
hope.
yeah, and I talked to a guy who's like, for a second feature film that's independent horror, he had 2,000 audition tapes to go through.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that. If I did a movie, I would just open my phone book and cast my friends. I have such talented friends. Have you had Bill Moseley on your?
No, no,
He's my friend. I can tell him about this if you want. I
yeah,
don't
that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'm going to see him. Hopefully,
know.
yep. Hopefully, we're going to see him at Days of the Dead in Chicago here in November. So him and
Oh,
Tom
tell him
Savini.
you interviewed me. He's
Yeah,
my really good friend.
yeah, it's amazing, being able to do this show and talk to people like yourself, because I get to learn the background of everyone and behind the scenes stuff, which is what I really love to do. You know, but with your career ranging in really horror, sci-fi, fantasy, drama, do you have a preference of what genre you're in?
Funny you should ask, because my buddy, Chop Top,
Hmm.
Bill Moseley, he only does horror, which is really interesting. My preference is money. Money. No, I mean, I just want to pay my bills, and I consider myself a blue collar actress. I'm hardly, I have to work really hard to get a gig, and when I get one, I'm just, I have to pay my bills that way. I wish it were different and I could pick and choose, because that to me is the height of success, where you get to pick and choose.
Hmm.
Nah, I don't want to do that. My friend just told me about his kid got into acting and she's like turns stuff down if they don't write her gender appropriately or what. And I'm not there. I got to do whatever if they want me, But I guess I have turned stuff down if I think it's disgusting or, like
Right.
Evilou is just wildly disgusting, but it's disgusting. I like fantastic disgusting. I don't like where I'm the butt of the joke,
Right.
I don't like that. Like there was this one thing I tried out for TV series and they wanted you to sign a nudity thing before you even went into the audition.
Huh.
I'm like, I got 2 boys and a girl kid. I'm a mom. I'm over 50. I am not signing a nudity thing. Not that I'm, hideous, but I could totally see myself on day 1. They're like, okay, get nude. I'd be like, I'd be doing the Coco from Fame, just like,
Right.
So I was like, fuck that. I'm not signing a nudity thing at 50. No, thanks.
Now you talk about discussing stuff like that. You were in Fire in the Sky, and that notoriously has the most graphic abduction scene in a movie at the very end. Now, do you watch that? Right?
I never saw Fire in the Sky.
Ah.
When I did that movie, I was married to this guy, and he was having an affair in my house, and everybody was telling me about it on the, on my, they were leaving messages, and it was horrible. So I guess maybe I should watch that movie.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I should watch it. But so I don't know about that. I just know when I see that movie, I see like the saddest broken heart girl ever that I was, in my life.
Yeah, it's a disturbing thing that like I don't remember necessarily a lot of the movie because I watched it a few times since it's come out, but that the ending scene just really just like was just graphic that seared in my head when I was a young kid watching it.
Wow. Yeah, I had fun doing that. The director was really weird and mean and picked on me, and I just didn't care at all because I had bigger fish to fry because my whole life was falling apart while we were shooting. And then, but the cast was really fun. You know who's in that? Was the creator of Friday Night Lights? That guy.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't realize he was a creator. Okay.
I can't think of his name, but he was super nice. He always liked me to play guitar and sing. So I'd play guitar and sing. Maybe the director was jealous. I don't know. But he was so mean and nasty to me.
Now, do you think your playing and singing help you get into cop rock? Show?
Cop rock was before Fire in the Sky, I think. But cop rock was really fun because I've been I've been writing songs since I was like 12. Like music is sort of a thing that I just do. My dad wrote songs, I write songs. And then I started acting, and so I just did the acting thing. And then there was a A&R person hanging out on the set of a movie I did called Campus Man, and I slipped her one of my tapes, and she's like, "Hey, I want to sign you," whatever. Anyway, so my music thing has always been something that I just do anyway, whether I make money at it or not. And so when cop rock happened, I was like, cool. I could do the music. I wrote a song for it too. It wasn't very good, but I mean, what's his name was so much better. What is it? Anyway, the songwriter, the famous, short people got no reason to short people. The guy who
yeah. I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
I can't think of his name, but he's great. Great songwriter. Anyway,
it seems like cop rock. Randy Newman.
That's
my producer.
Thank you.
So I guess the question is, I feel like cop rock's had a resurgence like in the past year or so that also I'm seeing on YouTube channels and other shows. People like, you should check out cop rock, and I'm just going,
really?
Yeah.
I had this great experience. So I did this movie called Roadhouse years ago. And while I was doing it, I was a very serious actress. I was training, you know, really learning the method, and so when I was doing it, there was a day of shooting, and the producer, this guy Joel Silver, he's like, Kathleen, I want you to, when you see his ass, I just want you to just be like, oh my God, and I felt like that was just, I said, so Joel, you want me to mug? You want me to just be like, whoa, and be like a cartoon? And he's like, yeah, 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 yeah. That's what I want you to do. And so I did that scene, which people remember when,
Mhm.
but I was so embarrassed by it. I never went to see the movie. And then 30 years later or whatever, there's they're playing at the Egyptian, and they want the cast to come and talk to everybody after the show. And I was like, I don't want to do it. My husband's like, you really should, because these are cinephiles. These people love the movie. Anyway, I watched the movie, and the audience is roaring with laughter. It's jam packed with people your age, and
Mhm.
they're looking at it like it's this camp movie. And and then I do my mugging thing, and they're like, it was so funny because you think I was just kind of a jerk in my 20s, I guess. I mean, like, why would I take myself so seriously? It's a silly movie about a philosopher, but what he really wants to do is be a bouncer.
Mhm.
It's so crazy. Anyway,
Yeah.
why did I bring that up?
We're talking about, the cop rock and singing
Oh,
and
so cop rock, yeah. So I would imagine cop rock would probably be received in much the same way
Mhm.
as a
And
camp kind of thing, like silly, right?
right. Yeah. I mean, my producer, he loves Roadhouse. He adores it to no end.
Ah,
um, and I have to ask though, did you watch the new one with Jake Gyllenhaal?
nah, I didn't. I mean, it's so silly, and I don't know. He's good. I mean, when has he sucked? Oh yeah, never. He's always good, right? So I would imagine he's good. It's just that's just not something I'm totally gonna. I'd rather watch slow horses, or
Mhm.
I don't know. This is something that's more my bag. But I should watch it. I mean, sure, be
Yeah.
good. They should have had me come on and be like the old lady of the bar.
I agree. I think if you're gonna do something, 30 years later or any time later, that you have the OG cast that you can. It
Exactly. And here I am, all this talent, just sitting at Woodland Hills waiting for the phone to ring.
yeah.
Stupid.
And it just reminds me, like, talking about Bill Moseley, Texas Chainsaw 3, where they had all the original people they could just for one opening scene in the Texas Chainsaw movie 3. It
Oh,
came out,
really?
and yeah, and Bill was there, and they just, the original Leatherface Gunther was there. Everyone's there just to have him there as an homage to him. Then they continue on the rest of the movie. But I think you gotta stay true to your roots and respect the originals before you do anything new.
I'm gonna hook you up with Bill Moseley. I think that would be awesome. Let's see if I can do
Yeah,
it. I mean, it's his career, so I don't know how that goes, but I'll
right.
definitely tell him to meet you.
Now, with your singing and your music talent and stuff like that, do you find that helps you doing like voice acting roles like Pepper Ann and Kathy?
Oh, you know what? The voiceover industry
Hmm.
completely crashed. So if you're not one of the 30 people that do cartoons or a movie star, there are no jobs for you. I was at William Morris Agency for voiceover, going to auditions 2, 3 times a week. They'd have, in the voiceover world, it's a really funny, strange world where they have recording studios at the agencies, and all of the voiceover actors would sit in a waiting room, and voiceover
Mm.
actors are the misfit toys of the acting industry. They are the kookiest, weirdest, funniest, sweetest, soulful, just wild. These waiting rooms and the conversations and the bits and the lot of clowns, and it just was so fun. And then one day, I hadn't heard from anybody, so I just assumed "Wah, wah," I got dropped or whatever. And so finally, I called my voiceover agent. He's
Hmm.
his house, he's my friend, this guy, C Strand. I called him and I was like, dude, what's happening? He's like, oh, well, the whole department was disbanded. They only do celebrity voiceovers at William Morris. All of the
Oh.
where people had to find new agents, and you're welcome to come with me. So I did, but they even changed the paradigm of the business where a lot of the actors have to pay to be represented by agents, which just feels so crappy to me.
Wow,
It's like, maybe I got it wrong, but that's how it was with me. Unless you're like making a living as a voiceover artist or a movie star, I don't think Alec Baldwin has trouble getting voiceover gigs, or Katie Seagal or whatever. But if you're
yeah.
just straight up voiceover person, I don't know. I haven't had an opportunity of any Oh, you know what I do? Summer Camp Island. I did that cartoon, and I played opposite Joe Montana. Played
Oh,
my husband. I never got to see him. I just recorded my stuff, but they were
yeah.
fun. That was really. It's called Summer Camp Island. I
Hmm.
think it's cartoon on HBO or something.
Yeah.
But that
I noticed a shift. Like growing up in the 80s and 90s, that it was you had voiceover actors, and then something changed where it's become, oh, now it's Brad Pitt that's doing the voiceover work and stuff
exactly,
like
and
that.
it kind of sucks because I feel like, hey, movie stars, back up. Let somebody else. Not Jesus, But whatever. They're doing their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. My buddy got into voice acting this year at the
Oh,
age
really?
of 43. And now he's going through acting classes. He's doing, doing script readings. He's doing, textbook reads and stuff like that, and realize it's a lot of voiceover stuff, that commercials and just reel after reel after reel, 8 to 10 hours a day just to try to get something at this point.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. But again, you don't really need to drive into Beverly Hills to go to William Morris to record your voiceover audition. You can
Hmm.
just record it on, Adobe Audition. It's called Audition on Adobe, whatever. You can just record it at home on your computer and send the MP3. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of good, but I don't know that world. My friend Kay, she's a big time voiceover girl, and she makes her living and didn't feel even a bump in the road when um, I felt like the voiceover industry just completely folded for me. You know,
Right.
I mean, I would do voiceover in a heartbeat if I got the gig. Like, I mean, it's such a great job to have. Pepper in, you roll out of bed around 9:30, 10 o'clock. We're going to meet at 11:30. You go in, there's tons of candy and all these great snacks, and you go into the studio and everybody's there, and you just read this hilarious script. It's a great life, that doing a cartoon. Super fun as a
Yeah.
voiceover artist.
Right.
Really sweet. It's a sweet gig.
I would think that, like I say, things have changed with that too, that now everyone has their own booths at home that they can record and send in. And I haven't had that side of it. I just go, wouldn't it be easier to be able to have a direct line with the director to have feedback instead of just sending it in, waiting, and then have notes and just redo it?
Well, that's an interesting thing, because that's the same principle behind self-tapes.
Hmm.
I mean, you're going to get rejected on your audition because they didn't like the way you did it. And that's a choice that you made. So you made the wrong choice. If you had some of their direction and they could tell you what they wanted you to do, then you could do it at, that's the thing about being in person, then you could try it the way they want you to do it. But with a
Yeah.
self-tape, you just kind of have to nail whatever you think it should be and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Same with voiceover auditions. I would suspect you just gotta hope for the best.
Right. Now, with your teaching of the next generation of actors, do you find that you have to teach them all this new things now that you have to worry about that you didn't have to worry about when you were starting?
Well, I teach acting for the camera, so I tell my students, I say, if you are uncomfortable and don't like making self tapes, you're in the wrong business. That is the only way I know that to get a gig nowadays. I have casting director friends. They don't even have offices. They just have their computers, and they watch these self tapes on their computers, and they forward them on to the directors. Sometimes they have offices. So, I mean, that's different, but I'm in the trenches with them. And that's the other thing that I say. say is that I'm not a teacher coming from, the 1950s and the days of Technicolor. I tell them, I was like, the minute you walk off this campus in May, you and I are peers. Like, I'm not auditioning for you, but because I'm offer only to my students. I tell them offer only, not auditioning for my students. But I am trying the best I know how to get gigs as well. And I tell them, I was like, my preference would be sitting in a trailer somewhere ordering my breakfast burrito and my coffee, waiting for my scene. Like I would rather be acting in an acting gig than teaching, but I love teaching,
Mm-hmm.
I once heard Ethan Hawke say that, man, it's just really easy for this motherfucker to say because he's, at the top of his game. He's picking and choosing. So he was
Right.
saying, if you're teaching actors, he does this whole bit about how, and you say that you don't want to teach, it's not 100% what you want to do, then get out of the business. And he does this whole trip, and I'm like, bitch, you know what I mean? Like you are lucky to be able to say that because by the way, teaching it's not easy. And for every talented kid, you got a kid who stinks, who has narcissistic disorder, who is delusional, and you have to teach that guy just as much as you teach the talented person that you're positive is going to waltz off that campus onto a movie set, because that exists as well. So that's very exciting. Now at Cal Arts, where I teach, most of those kids are freaking amazing, but I have taught at institutions where the majority of them were just, it was like, oh my God, you are wasting you are not going to work. This is not your thing. You need to think of something else. I didn't say that to them, but I have taught, in particular, there's an art school in the South that I taught at where it was like, I couldn't wait to get out of there. It was like the worst. Teaching no talents is hideous,
Yeah.
so I came running back to Cal Arts. Because those kids, you do any kind of direction, bang, they just articulate it in such a magical way. They're so talented. It's really a pleasure. It's a pleasure, but I don't like famous actors talking about how other people should get out of the business if they aren't stoked about teaching. I make teaching all semester what that fucker makes in one day, probably, so.
Yeah, obviously you need to teach because acting is just like any other skill. It's a muscle that you have to train to continuously do it. When I was in high school, I was writing and directing as well, and I kind of went behind the camera or behind the audience more so in high school. And now that I'm back into it, 18ish years later, that I'm just realizing I like being still really behind the camera and writing and directing, but I'm still in front of the camera. I do shows like this. I'm in some independent horror stuff, and I'll put myself in there. But I realize I'm better probably behind the camera.
You think?
I think so.
The thing about making your own stuff is that you get to decide, and that's like you write a movie that, for yourself. That's fantastic. My opinion, though, is I like to write too. So if I'm doing something that I wrote, I don't want to be acting in it. That doesn't feel good to me. I'd want to stay behind the camera kind of thing.
Now, what about Stop Yelling?
I wrote that. Now I've been writing much. Been writing full-length plays now, and that's sort of my new passion. And right now, currently, I wrote a play for a convention that I'm using all my songs, and I'm sort of in that process, just for fun and for free. But it's a musical, 30 minutes. It's pretty. That's what I'm working on right now with a bunch of drug addicts and alcoholics, like reformed drug addicts and alcoholics. So I'm doing that, and that feels really good to me and fun. I'm directing it, and I wrote it.
You started off on the stage, right? And now you're here still doing it. right?
Yeah, because like I said, back if we want to circle back to originally, performing arts, I think a lot of the arts, it chooses you.
Hmm.
It is how I like to spend my day. If I'm not acting, I'm writing. Mostly I'm writing. I really love the writing process. I like to write. I'm working on a couple of novels, and I really like the process of writing. I feel like you get to be the director, the actor, the producer, the lighting guy, the costumer when you're writing. It's all in your head, and you're still in the game of turning yourself inside out, which I think is where my personal passion lies,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting my producer. We're starting to write some synopses and stuff for screenplays that we want to flesh out into some independent horror stuff, and have plans for if we ever get a bigger budget for his sci-fi movie he wants to do, which I'm excited for if we're able to do it.
Right? I mean, see, here's an interesting quandary that you guys may be facing
Hmm.
with AI and how quickly that technology is just rocketing forward. You might be able to make a sci-fi, do your own visual special effects on your computer.
Hmm.
Like I know that's going to eliminate and this is the thing that is so tricky because as a performer, you don't want to be replaced by some, what's it called, avatar or something. Like nobody wants that.
Right.
Um, but as a creator, it's kind of this AI thing is kind of punk rock. Like what if you could make a thing where you're on a spaceship shooting through space and you're just creating it on your computer and you're not having to make it for, again, it takes it out of the hands of the one percenters in the business, out of those um um and it puts it in the pocket of the creators, and that's exciting to me. So
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are fighting the AI thing, but there's this other side to it that I think is really exciting, that we don't have to get the okay from these ding dongs sitting behind a desk with in their fancy suits and fancy cars.
Right. Yeah. We both work in IT, so we look at AI differently. Just because I've seen how bad it actually is. It's scary how bad it is sometimes. Like I was making a subtitle file for a movie, and I put it through the Adobe AI, and it goes, "Sure, here it is." And I go, "80% is not correct."
Oh no, really? Oh my
Yeah.
god. Well, but don't you think the technologies is going to move pretty quickly though in the next, like, you're young, so in like 10 years you're still in the game big time. In 10 years
Hmm.
that's not going to be the case at all, I think, right?
I,
I mean,
I think so, but like I said, being born in the '80s and growing up in the '80s '90s movie, I will always love practical effects more than anything else.
well, there's nothing more fun than to strap on some squibs and get shot, blown to bits,
Hmm.
they're like little firecrackers of blood that spurt out, poo, 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 I mean,
Yeah.
those were the days, but you can do that all on digital, whatever.
Yeah.
So right now, so you don't get squibbed anymore. I mean, they're dangerous too. They're when they squib you up,
Hmm.
all those pyrotechnic guys are coming around. It's that same, it's intense, so,
Right.
but it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Oh my God, running
Oh,
around.
it is for something I shot in July that I co-wrote. I had my head kind of blown open by a
Of
gun,
course.
and so it's all practical too. So I had in the chair for an hour and a half, getting makeup, latex built up with tubes running down the back of my head, down my shirt, off like 12 feet away, for a guy with syringes just to squirt the blood out on cue.
Oh, awesome. That is fantastic. Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
I had a blast doing that, and I told the makeup guy, I'm like, he's just a couple hours away. I'm like, if you ever need someone to test stuff on, I will drive up there, do it, and we'll get it shot.
Sure. That sounds awesome. Sure. Yeah, for sure. How fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, making movies is just like, never forget how fun it is. Just like playing music. My buddy and I, when we're playing music, we always look at each other and we say, "Don't forget, this is a get to, not a have to. We're having a ball, you know.
Mhm.
It is fun. Same with, that's what the beauty of Evilou, which I don't know what you've done some research on. I'm proud of you. Because I haven't heard from my friend who made it, and he did some reshoots, and I hadn't heard back. I does it have a release date or anything?
It doesn't. And I was looking at it, I'm just going, I want this to come out because the synopsis of it, essentially, guy changing his personality, is just an intriguing story, and I want to see it. There's no release information or anything yet.
It's so great, and he gets these black zits on his. I mean, it is so gross and hilarious and weird. I'm just very excited because the filmmaker too. He's a terrific person and talent. So I
Yeah.
really wish him the best of luck to get that movie out.
For sure. All right, Kathleen. Well, we're at the time. It goes by fast for me. Hopefully, you had a blast. But let's
I
get
did.
some roundup. Let's get some roundup questions here. So, kind of, we talk about CGI and versus computer effects. Do you have a preference? Do you ever think that we talk about AI? Do you ever think we'll ever get fully away from practical effects? Do you think it'll always be there, maybe with like a computer overlay instead?
Well, for my buddies who are, special effects practical effects guys and stunt guys and other, actors, I hope not, but I just don't know how you're going to. I think we have to learn how to embrace it and incorporate it,
Mm-hmm.
include it, because it's going to it exists. It's a Pandora's box a little bit. But
Right.
artistically, if we can harness it, I think the sky's the limit, so
Yeah.
say that,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's true.
I think there'll always be someone that keeps the torch alive for practical, though. There's,
Yeah. Well, I know, Justine Bateman is starting a film festival that she said that there are no movies that have AI in these films. Like it's all practical, digital or analog kind of
Mhm.
film. She's trying to do that. So
Right.
I know people are trying, but it's
Oh,
a pretty massive kind. It's sort of like atomic energy. It's if once it's out, it's like hard to
oh yeah.
rein that in. I
Yeah.
think honestly.
Yeah. I want to do a decades of horror where I do the visual effects of every decade of horror in movies that have ever existed. So I want to go back to the old rust colored 1900s, 1910s and do a horror movie and do one set in the same visuals of each decade.
Oh, that's so interesting. You should. That's so. My husband told my kids and I, you got to see the eyes. The hills have eyes. It's the scariest movie. It's so scary, he said. And so we all sat down. We had popcorn. My kids are all your age practically, and we all sat down to watch it. And it was the hokiest, stupidest. Like we were like, and he was like, "Oh, I guess I haven't seen it since I was 12 years old or something."
Yeah, we had Susan Lanier on the show too.
Oh,
From Hills.
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and I'm be working with Michael Berryman next year.
Oh, fantastic.
So yeah, we're hoping to have a little mini Hills of Eyes reunion for the movie.
No
So.
disrespect on it. I'm just saying, like the special effects on that are not the same as what we're used to today.
Right. All right. So Kathleen, if you could work in any IP or franchise, do you have something like you want, Disney to say, hey, we want you in a Star Wars or Marvel movie or anything like that?
Oh, wow. I don't even know. I don't know what would you put me in? I don't know. I do again, I'm a blue collar actress. I just want to work.
Mm-hmm.
I want to work and I suppose maybe the Lord of the Rings, so I could go to New Zealand. That'd be kind of cool. Right? Don't they shoot that in New Zealand?
Yeah. They do.
I don't know, like something in Europe and Ireland. I've never been to Ireland. I've always wanted to go. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have. I'm not a big. It's not really my thing. I should just say that, but I did cry at Wonder Woman when she kicked everybody's ass because I felt like it was this female power thing that made me feel really I don't know. It moved me. The
Yeah.
whole fighting scene, and opening Wonder Woman thing, moved me to tears. I don't know. Is that crazy? It's a little
No,
crazy.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. All right. So I know as a teacher, what's your best advice for anyone trying to get into the field of acting?
I guess my best advice is I tell my students, they don't get a say. Don't wait by the phone. Make your own stuff. Make your stuff. Tell your story. Don't wait for the man to hire you. And that's the biggest tragedy in my generation, is that this business was set up like that. You waited for your agents to call before you would go on those auditions. Now I feel like, if I had it to do over again, I wish I was making my own movies back in the 80s, and finding my own voice through film as a filmmaker, not just as a marionette, as an actress, which is,
Right.
I'm saying other people's words, doing, participating in other people's creations. I want to be the guy who who creates the thing. I tell my students, like, go make your thing. Don't wait for them to tell you that you can or cannot. You go do it. So that would be my advice.
Awesome. All right. You ready for your random horror trivia question?
Oh boy. Okay.
What actress played Tiffany in The Bride of Chucky?
Didn't see it.
Jennifer Tilly.
Oh, really? I know her.
Yeah. So yeah, all good. So Kathleen, where can people find you and follow you for upcoming works and you know, like hopefully Evilou comes out this year so we all get to see it.
I don't know. I gotta get my website up. I mean, that's something like I need to do. It's just hard to prioritize for me to create my website. I need to you're making me feel like I need to do that, because I wish I had a website to be like, oh, go to my website. I'm on Instagram. I like Instagram. I guess they could follow me on Instagram, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not so great on that stuff. Maybe if I was, I'd be working more.
All good. So
Oh, sorry.
it's all good, Kathy. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, Kathleen. I hope you had a blast.
I did.
And
I did. I'm gonna when we hang up, I'll call Bill Mosley and tell him. Yeah,
awesome,
we
awesome.
still do graveyard show.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Everyone, make sure to follow us on all social media at Pada Night, and we'll see you next time. Don't
All
get
right.
lost in the void. Good night.
All right. You take care.